What if the exact moment your life changes is not tomorrow, not next year, but the day you finally stop waiting for someone else to save you? Think about how many people are stuck in the same place simply because they are waiting. Waiting for help, waiting for motivation, waiting for the right time, or waiting for someone to believe in them first. And while they wait, life keeps moving forward without pause, turning days into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years, while their dreams stay frozen exactly where they left them. The painful truth is that most people are not failing because they lack ability, but because they are waiting for something that never arrives. They wait for opportunities to appear, for support to come, or for life to suddenly become easier. But in reality, time does not wait for anyone, and every moment spent waiting becomes a moment lost forever. That is how dreams slowly fade, not because they were impossible, but because action was replaced with expectation. Here is something most people avoid hearing, yet it is the truth that changes everything. Nobody is coming. No one is going to wake you up every morning and force you to be disciplined. No one is coming to build your future for you or carry your responsibilities. No one is going to take your ideas and turn them into reality while you stay the same. That responsibility has always belonged to you, and it always will. This does not mean people will never support you. Along the way, you may find mentors who guide you, friends who encourage you, and opportunities that open doors. But none of these can replace your personal effort, because no mentor can do your work for you, and no support system can build your habits. At the end of the day, your growth depends on what you do when no one is watching. There are certain things in life that cannot be transferred or outsourced. No one can do your push-ups for you. No one can study your lessons or build your discipline. No one can take responsibility for your consistency or your choices. These are deeply personal actions, and they shape the direction of your entire life. That is why success never belongs to those who wait. It belongs to those who act. The moment you accept this truth, something powerful shifts inside you. You stop looking outward for excuses and start looking inward for answers. You realize that while you cannot control circumstances, seasons, or external challenges, you can always control your response. That is where real strength begins, not in complaining, not in blaming, but in ownership of your own life. Success is not a mystery, and it is not luck either. It is built through discipline, repetition, and consistent effort over time. But discipline only begins when excuses end. The more you delay, the more your mind builds comfort around inaction. And the longer that continues, the harder it becomes to break free from it. That is why the most important decision is not where you start, but whether you stop waiting. Because the truth is simple but powerful. The hero you are searching for is already in the mirror. The person capable of changing your life is not coming from outside. It is already you. The only difference between who you are today and who you want to become is the level of responsibility you are willing to take starting now, not someday in the future. And when you finally understand this, waiting loses its power over you. You stop postponing your life, stop hoping for rescue, and start building with what you already have. That is the moment where real transformation quietly begins, not through motivation, but through ownership, action, and the decision to finally take control. The moment you stop waiting for someone else to change your life, something subtle but powerful begins to shift. It does not happen overnight, and it does not feel dramatic at first, but your mindset slowly starts to change. You begin to understand that every day you spend waiting is a day where nothing moves forward, and every small action you take is a step away from the life you don't want. Most people underestimate how much time they actually lose while waiting. They tell themselves they are preparing, or that they will start later when things feel right. But later quietly turns into weeks, and weeks turn into months without any real progress. Meanwhile, life keeps moving, and the gap between who they are and who they want to be slowly becomes wider. This is where a hard truth becomes unavoidable. Nobody is coming. No one is coming to build discipline for you, and no one is coming to push you out of your comfort zone every day. No one is going to force you to learn, grow, or stay consistent. The responsibility of change cannot be transferred to anyone else. It sits entirely with you. At first, this truth can feel uncomfortable, even heavy. But if you look at it differently, it is also freeing. Because if no one is coming to fix your life, then you are not dependent on anyone either. You are not waiting for permission, approval, or perfect conditions. You already have what you need to start moving forward. Real change begins when you shift from external dependence to internal responsibility. You may not be able to control everything happening around you, but you can always control what you do next. That simple shift in thinking is what separates those who stay stuck from those who grow. It is not about having more resources, but about taking full ownership of your direction. And while support from others can be helpful, it can never replace personal effort. You might meet mentors who guide you, friends who encourage you, or situations that open doors. But none of these can do the actual work for you. No one can train your discipline, build your habits, or develop your mindset on your behalf. That part is always yours. Think about it clearly. No one can do your push-ups for you. No one can sit in your place and study for your goals. No one can practice consistency for you when you feel tired or unmotivated. Growth requires direct participation. It demands effort that cannot be outsourced or delegated. And this is where most people struggle the most. They want results, but they are still hoping for shortcuts or external help to carry the burden. But life does not reward dependence. It rewards consistency, repetition, and discipline practiced in silence, even when nobody is watching or cheering. Once you accept this, something important happens inside your mind. You stop waiting for ideal conditions and start working with what you already have. You stop focusing on what is missing and start focusing on what is possible right now. That shift alone can completely change the direction of your life. Because the truth is, success is not something that suddenly arrives. It is something you build step by step through responsibility. Every small action you take today becomes a foundation for tomorrow. And every excuse you avoid becomes space for growth, discipline, and progress. So instead of asking when life will change, the real question becomes, what can I change today? That one question pulls you out of delay and brings you into action. And action, even if small, always creates momentum. And once momentum begins, everything starts to feel different. Not easier, but clearer. You stop feeling stuck in thought and start moving with intention. And that is where real progress quietly begins, not in waiting, but in doing. When you start taking responsibility for your life, you begin to notice something important. Excuses are always available, but so is action. The difference is not in the situation itself, but in how you choose to respond to it. One path keeps you comfortable in delay, while the other pushes you into growth that feels uncomfortable at first, but becomes powerful over time. Most people don't realize how silently excuses shape their lives. At the beginning, an excuse feels harmless. You say you're tired. You say you don't have enough time. Or you convince yourself that you will start tomorrow. It feels small in the moment, but repeated over days and weeks, those small delays slowly turn into a lifestyle of inaction. This is how progress quietly disappears, not through one big failure, but through hundreds of small justifications. Each excuse feels reasonable on its own, but together they form a pattern that keeps you exactly where you are. And over time, that pattern becomes identity. You begin to believe that you are the kind of person who will start later instead of the kind who takes action now. But here is the reality. Excuses do not just delay your success. They actively build failure. Every time you choose an excuse over effort, you are reinforcing a habit of avoidance. And the longer that habit stays, the harder it becomes to break. That is why success is not about big moments of motivation, but about consistent discipline in small, daily actions. Complaining works in a similar way. It may feel like a release, like a way to express frustration, but in reality, it shifts your focus away from solutions. Every complaint is a quiet statement that says, "This is happening to me," instead of, "I will do something about this." And that shift in mindset changes everything. Because successful people also face problems. They also experience setbacks, delays, and disappointment. The difference is not that their lives are easier, but that their response is stronger. They don't stay stuck in problems. They move toward solutions. They don't build identities around difficulties. They build progress through them.
And when you start observing your own life honestly, you begin to see how often excuses have held you back. The opportunities you didn't take, the skills you didn't develop, the habits you postponed, not because you couldn't, but because you delayed action. Over time, those small delays quietly shape the direction of your entire future. This is where awareness becomes powerful. Because once you recognize the pattern, you also gain the ability to break it. And breaking it does not require a perfect plan or perfect timing. It only requires a single decision. No more excuses. Not tomorrow, not later, but starting now. That decision is what separates repetition from transformation. Because as long as excuses remain, your life repeats itself. But when excuses end, action begins. And when action begins, even small steps start to create visible change over time. It is also important to understand that responsibility does not mean life becomes easy. In fact, it often becomes more challenging at first, because now you are no longer hiding behind comfort or delay. You are facing tasks directly, without escape. But that discomfort is exactly what builds strength and direction. And with time, something changes. You start to feel more in control, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer avoiding it. You begin to act, even when you don't feel like it, and that is where real discipline is formed. Not in motivation, but in repetition despite resistance. So the question becomes very simple. Will you continue repeating excuses, or will you start building action? Because one leads to stagnation, and the other leads to growth. And every day, you are making that choice, whether you realize it or not. Life often moves in seasons that don't make sense while you are inside them. There are times when everything feels slow, quiet, and even invisible. You are putting in effort, trying your best, but nothing around you seems to reflect your hard work. In those moments, it is easy to question whether anything is actually changing at all. But the truth is, progress is not always visible. Just because you cannot see results does not mean nothing is happening. Growth often begins beneath the surface, in places where it cannot be noticed right away. And just like nature, what grows slowly is often what becomes the strongest in the end. Think about a seed planted in the ground. On the surface, nothing appears to change for a long time. There is no movement, no visible transformation, and no clear sign of progress. But underneath the soil, something powerful is taking place. Roots are forming, structure is developing, and a foundation is being built that will eventually support visible growth. Your life works in a very similar way. There are seasons where you feel stuck, unseen, or even forgotten. But those seasons are often not delays, they are development. They are shaping your discipline, strengthening your mindset, and preparing you for what is coming next, even if you cannot recognize it yet. Many people give up during these silent seasons because they expect constant results and visible progress. When they don't see immediate change, they assume nothing is working. But in reality, some of the most important growth happens when nothing around you looks different on the surface. Lonely seasons in particular carry a hidden purpose. When no one is watching, you begin to develop discipline. When no one is helping, you learn independence. And when no one is cheering you on, you start building self-belief. These are not comfortable lessons, but they are powerful ones that shape long-term strength. It is easy to stay motivated when people are encouraging you, or when results are visible. But real strength is built in silence, when you continue without applause, without validation, and without immediate reward. That kind of consistency builds something deeper than motivation. It builds character. And character is what carries you through long-term success. Because motivation fades, and external support is inconsistent. But discipline built in quiet seasons stays with you. It becomes part of who you are, not just what you do temporarily. So if you are in a season right now where things feel slow or unclear, it does not mean you are failing. It may actually mean you are in the process of becoming stronger. The foundation is being built, even if you cannot see the structure yet. This is why patience is so important. Not passive waiting, but active patience. Continuing to show up, continuing to put in effort, and continuing to trust the process even when there is no immediate reward. Because consistency during silent seasons is what creates future breakthroughs. And one day, when the results finally become visible, you will realize that nothing was wasted. Every quiet effort, every unseen struggle, and every moment of persistence was part of the transformation. It all connects, even if it didn't make sense at the time. So instead of giving up during slow seasons, understand their purpose. Keep building, keep growing, and keep moving forward. Because seasons always change, and the people who stay consistent in silence are the ones who rise when their season finally does. Success is not something you chase like a distant object. It is something you slowly become through daily decisions. Most people misunderstand this and focus only on results, thinking success is measured by money, recognition, or visible achievements. But they forget that the deeper transformation is not in what you get, but in who you become while trying to get it. Becoming unstoppable is not a single moment of change. It is a process built over time, through repeated effort, small disciplined actions, and continuous responsibility. It does not happen overnight, and it does not depend on sudden motivation. It depends on what you choose to do every single day, especially when it is difficult. An unstoppable person is not someone who never struggles. They are not someone who never feels tired or uncertain. Instead, they are someone who continues anyway. Even when progress is slow, even when motivation disappears, and even when results are not visible yet, they keep moving forward with consistency. That ability to continue is what separates those who achieve from those who only dream. Because dreamers often wait for perfect conditions, while achievers start with whatever they have. Dreamers depend on motivation, but achievers depend on discipline. And discipline is what creates long-term success. Every challenge you face in life is shaping you in some way. Setbacks are not just obstacles, they are lessons. Difficult moments are not just problems, they are training grounds for strength. But these challenges only build you if you stay in the process instead of quitting early. Because quitting stops growth completely, while continuing transforms you gradually. Every time you push through resistance, you are not just completing a task, you are building a stronger version of yourself. And over time, that version becomes someone who no longer needs external pressure to act. True discipline is built through repetition. It is not about doing something once with motivation, but doing it repeatedly, even when it feels boring or difficult. That repetition slowly shapes identity until discipline becomes a natural part of who you are. And once discipline becomes your identity, everything changes. You no longer rely on mood or motivation to take action. You become someone who shows up regardless of how you feel. That is what makes people truly consistent, and consistency is what leads to real achievement. So the goal is not perfection. The goal is transformation. Every small action you take today is building the foundation of your future self. Every moment you choose effort over excuses is shaping your direction. And every time you push forward despite resistance, you are becoming stronger. There will come a point where you realize something powerful. You are no longer forcing yourself to start. You are someone who naturally takes action. That shift does not happen suddenly. It is the result of repeated discipline over time. And that is the real definition of being unstoppable. Not someone who never falls, but someone who never stops getting back up. Not someone who never struggles, but someone who keeps moving anyway. In the end, your life changes when you change. No external force is responsible for your transformation. It is your responsibility, your effort, and your consistency that shape your outcome. When you accept that fully, you take back control of your direction. So stop waiting for perfect timing. Stop expecting life to fix itself. Start building yourself, one action at a time. Because the moment you decide to take full responsibility is the moment everything begins to change. And that is where unstoppable begins.